Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome back to another edition of Football Theory. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis, pleased to be joined by my good friend and esteemed colleague, my man Jeff Howe, joining us here for Football Theory. Today, we're going to we'll talk offense and defense. Try to want to basically break both sides down a little bit, and we'll talk on defense about PK's evolution as a defensive coordinator, as it relates to a defensive play call, as it relates to his coverage schemes. And we'll also get into the offensive side of the ball. And my man Jeff wants to talk about the run game, which, as we know already, has been affected, whether you're talking about the transfer of CJ Baxter, whether you're talking about Chad Scott now out as the running backs coach for Texas, and Tre Wisner with a decision to make. The Texas run game will definitely be impacted by all those moves, and we'll talk about that a little bit here on Football Theory as well. Before we get started, let's thank our first sponsor of Football Theory. Let's thank Laura Baker. We appreciate Laura Baker. Football Theory brought to you by accomplished Austin realtor Laura Baker. Laura and the Andy Allen team at Keller Williams can handle all of your real estate needs in the Austin area. Laura is not only a diehard Longhorn fan, but a longtime Austin real estate expert. So please give her a shout today. If you have any concerns or questions regarding real estate in the Austin area, 512-784-0505. That's 512-784-0505. Or you can reach out at Laura at AndyAllenTeam.com. That's Laura at AndyAllenTeam.com. And thank you very much to Laura Baker and her team for being a part of our team here at On Texas Football. All right, Jeff, let's start on defense and talk about how the defense has evolved. Last year was the first season under PK where Texas actually had more single high coverages, and that single high meaning one deep safety as opposed to two deep safeties, hell, even three these days. But it was the first season under PK that last year was the first season they went more single high snaps than two high snaps. And this year they doubled down on it. Last year they were around 55%, so it just made them the majority of single high snaps. This year Texas actually ended up with over 70% of their snaps being single high snaps. Wow. 70% of that. Basically, if you look at the Power 4 overall for Texas, Texas was over 70%. That would have the second in the FBS, and it led the Power 4 in single high snaps, which is strange, which is not strange, but it's just very interesting. And if you look at it, it's kind of mind-blowing because they were top 5 in the country in two high snaps of two high coverages. So that's your cover 4s, your cover 2s, cover 6, if you will, sometimes. They were top 5 in those coverages, or at least two high shell coverages in 2022 and in 2023. And now they have made the shift to be one of the most predominant single high coverage teams in the country. Just shows you the kind of chameleon that PK is. He not only changes with the times, but changes with influence. I think a lot of this is the Nansen influence.
No doubt.
From the Arizona time, nobody was more influenced by single high coverages than Arizona when Johnny Nansen was there calling plays. They were over 80% single high coverages. Seems like now that influence has also compelled PK to do the same.
Yeah, I guess what gets lost in translation for me, Rod, is we figured the evolution would be kind of more press man coverage, or at least play tighter coverage more consistently. And not saying we didn't see that, because there were times where we saw it. It's just when they didn't use it when they probably needed to, it was to their detriment. And the one game that stands out to me more than any other is the Florida game. I just felt like way early in that game that you had a guy in DJ Lagway that was struggling with confidence. And granted, yeah, they got Dallas Wilson back and they had some weapons, and you didn't have Malik Muhammad, so maybe you didn't feel like you could be as aggressive in coverage. But I just felt like they let DJ Lagway have way too many easy completions in that game. But I think it's interesting, as the year went on and we saw Cade Phillips start to play more, Kobe Black got healthy and started playing a little bit more, like towards the end of the season, we saw them being more aggressive in man coverage. So my hope is that kind of the product, at least the style that we saw more toward the end of the year, that's what we're going to get in the bowl game and then going forward into 2026.
Yep. No, I agree. They definitely played more man coverage and a little bit more press man toward the end of the season. And if you want to talk about the man coverage for Texas, we talked about these young guys. They were recruiting long, rangy guys who did have press coverage ability, coverage specialists. And the thought process was that they want to play more man coverage. Well, essentially they did. They played more man coverage. Now, it wasn't significantly more. They were 113th in man coverage rate in 2024, 117th in press coverage rate in 2024, 88th in 2025 in man coverage rate, that's more man coverage. They played more man coverage. They actually went from about a little over 16% man coverage to a little under 30%. They were closer. They were 28%. If you look at it over man coverage rate, they were 100. If you go look at it overall, 28% was the man coverage rate. Talking about zero coverage and cover one. Basically, those are your two man coverages you look at. So there was an increase. Now, the average in terms of overall man coverage is probably around 20. It's probably around 27%. So Texas went right above the average.
Yeah,
which is good. They actually were above average. They were below average every year. Basically, PK has been here. Texas has been below average in man coverage rate. They were a little tick above average in man coverage rate. So they're playing more. I'm with you though, Jeff. I think when you get more Cade Phillips on the field, you got young Grayson Little. There's a youth movement now happening in the secondary. There's also an Akita influence, even though a lot of folks don't think Coach Akita did a good job this year. I get that. But the Akita influence says they'll play more man coverage. That's what he specializes in. That's what he teaches really well. That's what I played a lot under Coach Akita when he was at Arizona. That's what they predominantly played was man coverage. So Texas going to play more man coverage and even press man coverage, to your point. That actually is something that I think they are trending towards. And when PK trends towards something, it seems like the next season they go all in. Remember, they were trending towards single high last year, all right, and get more single high. And then this year, boom, nobody plays more single high, right? And I think they could be doing that with man coverage. I'm not saying they're going to be the most predominantly man coverage team in the country, but I think you will see them play a lot more if they have the athletes to do it, which they really do.
And I think where the tipping point for this defense, to me, where it feels like we're going to see a schematic shift, I think the Georgia game really exposed the importance of it, because that was the one game where it really, we talk about the Florida game giving up too many easy completions. Georgia, to me, Rod, really exploited the fact that, man, your pressure and your coverages, they really don't match up. Like, they did a really bad job of matching up. And the one play, you pointed this out astutely, there was a third down. I think it was like a 3rd and 11 early in that game, and they bring a pressure, and it's right on top of Gunnar Stockton. But, they get a fairly easy completion, a much easier completion than you should get on 3rd and long. And it's like, hey, if you're the corner there, like, you got to know the ball's coming out fast if you're bringing pressure, and, you playing 15 yards off the ball and giving up that much cushion, like, you just can't. I think, too, Rod, one thing that I know I took it for granted, we talked a lot about communication needing to change, how was that going to be improved, or where was it going to be without Jahdae Barron and Andrew Makuba? I think what was missing is, I took for granted the fact that you had two highly instinctive, high football IQ guys that had the ability, not just with their skills, but with their intellect and the way they studied tape and their ability to anticipate. They could erase a lot of mistakes for you. Yeah. And those two erased a ton of mistakes. And I think we can agree Jalen Gilbo was much better playing in the nickel in the slot than he was playing at corner. But it really seemed like after the Georgia game, when, your pressures and your coverages matched up much better against Texas A&M than they did against, if you're just talking about really good teams. I just think at that point, it just seemed like, what? Cade Phillips is one of our best corners. And, what can the young guy do? Well, Rod, this. It's probably easier for young guys, especially guys that are as physically gifted as Cade Phillips. Hey, just go out there and cover that guy. It was not worry about nuance. Just go out there and cover that guy. And for the most part, he did a really good job toward the back end of the year. So I agree with you. It seems like PK will dip his toes in it one year and then really go all in on it the next. He kind of had to do that by force, if you will. If you remember, like year one, when they were trying to play like some quarters and some pattern match stuff, what happened? They brought in Gary Patterson. They went all in on it in 2022, and we saw a different product in the back end. So my hope is now, you got two really good, especially if they kick Grayson Littleton out the corner, with Malik Muhammad expected to go to the NFL, then you got two really good, potentially elite corners that can make plays on the ball, that can be sticky in man coverage, I wouldn't be surprised if we see them go more towards all in on man coverage in 2026.
To your point, Jeff, just a real quick before we move on to the offensive side of the ball, before they got Gary Patterson, it seems like PK, he really miscalculated the Big 12, came in, was just kind of throwing blank at the wall and seeing if it sticks. He's around 30% cover 3, 30% cover 4 quarters. He's playing a lot of vision, which is old school country zone coverage where you're literally covering just an area of the field. You're not even matching, you know what I mean? It's just kind of old school. And trust me, that will get you eaten alive in the Big 12. Gary Patterson comes in, it's like, bro, you can't play it like that. Not in the Big 12. You got to do this because you always talk about the hybrid spread era. That's what he walked into if you were PK. And GP gave him the cliff notes and said, hey, you got to do this. And he basically gave him, hey, you got to go quarters. You got to go quarters coverage. And he taught him how to coach up quarters. And Texas played the most in 2022, the most quarters coverage in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And they were top 5 in the power 5 now, power 4 now, but power 5 then in quarters coverage in 2023. So he took that GP recipe, and like you said, he dabbled in it early and then went all in once he figured out kind of the cheat codes. And then in 2024, Nansen influence. Nansen comes in and goes, bro, nah, man, you ain't in the Big 12 no more. We going national. We got to play the SEC. We're going to play Big 10 teams. We're trying to go to the college ball playoff. If you want to do that, you got to be able to stop the run. You got to get to some single high schemes. And that's when PK gets into more single high. And then he dabbles in playing a lot of cover 3. They were a little under 40% cover 3 in 2024, but still playing a lot of quarters coverage too. You were over 25% quarters coverage, still playing mostly cover 3 in 2024. But then in 2025, Texas right now in 2025, they led the power 4 in cover 3 rate.
Wow.
They were at their cover 3 rate. They were over 50% cover 3 rate. 50% of the time, Texas in cover 3. So when PK likes something, he loves it. When he like dabbles in, he's like, "Ooh, that actually works." Then PK goes all in on it. He's kind of got an addictive personality as a coordinator and a play caller. So I'm with you. I think this actually does point toward something I predicted last year. Like, they're going to play more man coverage. They want to play more man coverage. The athletes they're recruiting, indicates that the coaches they're bringing in, like Akina and the other coach, the Kenoto Hudson that they were bringing in, those coaches also kind of indicate they're going to play a little more man coverage. It looks like we did get it, but we dabbled in it. All indicators say that in 2026, Texas is going to play a lot more. They may be like a heavy man coverage team. We shall see.
And I think the understanding needs to be that, look, the more man coverage you play, you are going to be vulnerable to giving up plays down the field. The flip side of that is, especially with Littleton and Phillips, you've got guys that they're going to make their share of plays on the ball. They may give up some because that's just the nature of the beast. And, look, you've got Ohio State on the schedule again in 26. So you're going to face Jeremiah Smith and a really good receiver group again. Just go up and down the list of the teams that you're going to play. Like, you're going to face some really good, like, NFL type wide receivers in the SEC. You're going to give up some stuff, but at the same time, now you've got guys that they're more naturally gifted, or their skill set leans more toward them being more natural in man coverage than maybe some of the guys you've had. So they'll give up some, but the flip side is they're going to get theirs at some point.
Yeah. No, good stuff, brother. All right, let's jump to the offensive side of the ball. A lot of attention paid to the defense. Let's talk about offense now. And Jeff, you discussed it, with me during our pre-show meetings. A lot of changes for Texas in the run game already this offseason. Offseason not officially started, still got the bowl games, but already started, and that could impact the run game significantly. Hopefully for the better, but that remains to be seen.
Yeah, look, I just want to go through some run game numbers here real quick. In the just where Texas ranked in the SEC, in a 16-team SEC, you were tied for 12th in runs from scrimmage of 10-plus yards, 47. In runs from scrimmage of 20-plus yards in the SEC. You're next to last. Only Kentucky had fewer than you did. You had 9 all year. In a 12-game season, you had 9 runs from scrimmage of 20 or more yards. And not all of those were your running backs. Like, you can think about, like, Matthew Caldwell had one. Arch Manning has a couple. Ryan Wingo has one. So it's not like all those even came from your running back. So I think, one of the – I don't even want to call it a silver lining because I don't want to make it sound like, oh, Texas is better off not being in the playoff. Like, no, you want to be in the playoff. You needed to be in the playoff. You should have been in the playoff, and you weren't. And it's a disappointment. But now that you're not, Sark really gets to get a head start on figuring out, okay, we're going all in. And I think the bigger picture too, Rod, and this kind of goes back to the man coverage too. College football coaches, you can't afford to look at this as like a multi-year deal. Like, okay, we're going to build this program out for, I mean, you can to an extent in some of your philosophies, but especially when it comes to roster construction, like it's a year-to-year proposition. So you're going all in on 2026. And I think this is Sark when you look at Texas parting ways with Chad Scott. You look at CJ Baxter's already hopped in the portal or is going to hop in the portal. Jarrett Gibson has already long ago decided he was headed for the portal. Like at this point, the only back that I feel like with anything close to 100% certainty is going to be on the roster in 26, James Simon might be it from where your running back room was in 2025. Like that's just where we're at. Like he's the one I don't have hardly any concerns about him coming back. We'll see what happens with Tre Wisner and Christian Clark, etc. But, you know, this is an opportunity now for Sark to say, you know what, this run game was not very good. And in conference play, you were dead last in the SEC in rushing yards per game in conference play. And that's just flat not going to get it done. So this is Sark saying, hey, I want to reinvent this run game. We're basically going to scrap everything we've got right now. And between our running backs coach, our running back personnel, our offensive line personnel, we're just going to build this thing from square one through the portal and through hiring another running backs coach that can maybe come in here and bring some scheme things. Because, Rod, even from a scheme standpoint, personnel does play a big part of it, yes. But from a scheme standpoint, you're still way too wide zone dependent. And I'm not even talking about like, oh, what percentage of your runs are wide zone runs? Like, no, that's still the bread and butter of the run game, almost to your detriment, because we saw against Georgia and against Florida, really the games you lost, maybe with the exception of the Ohio State game, when teams shut down your wide zone run game, you have had no counterpunch the last 2 years. And I don't think your offensive line personnel, you've had some talent on the offensive line, but your personnel hasn't been versatile enough to where you can be scheme versatile in the run game. Like, yeah, you need guys that can zone block. You also need some guys that can drive block. You need to run duo. You need guys that are good pullers so you can run your counters and your powers and your leads and things like that. So where you're pulling guards or pulling tackles, help pull a center every now and then if he's athletic enough. We saw Cole Hudson, I think, do that a couple of times when he was playing center. So you just need to be in both personnel and scheme. You need to be more diverse to be better, I think. And I will borrow the line from Sark, Rod. He has gone on record. He said this many times. The more things we do well, the tougher we are to defend. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons why you've been easy to defend in the run is there aren't a lot of things you do well. There's one thing that you do really well.
Preach.
When teams have shut it down, you haven't had anything to fall back on.
Preach, brother. That's brilliant. I agree. I'll clap for you because that's money. You're right. He says that. That's what Sark says. That it's better when we can do more. And it's like, man, you guys are doing less. Yeah. You're doing less with less in the run game. And what disappoints me about the Texas run game ultimately is they have the +1 now. Yeah. We thought the run game was going to be better because they added an actual threat in the running game at quarterback. They did. And Arch Manning is a threat at running game. We know that. And yet the running game was the worst running game for Sark as a play caller. That's how bad the running game was. That's why Sark, I don't think he has any guilt about letting guys walk, getting rid of coaches associated with running game. He's like, no, to Jeff's point, we got to reinvent it.
I will die on this hill. I will die on this hill that if Jonathan Brooks doesn't get hurt, Texas wins a national championship in 2023 because in the Sugar Bowl, when they needed to run the football, when Washington was willing to let them run the football, and that was a great job by that staff because they knew, hey, we're going to give Sark the run. He's not going to run the football because I don't think he trusted those two freshman backs. And though each of those guys put the ball on the ground, he had further reason to not trust them. So he's got to be able to trust the run. And that was a big part of the reason why he went away from it. Rod, he almost admitted as much after the Georgia game when he said on that Monday after the Georgia game, he said, with the way the game was going, we knew we were going to have to try to match scores. So it didn't make sense to run the football. At that point in the game, you should not have been that panicked about your run game not working. So clearly he didn't trust it. So to me, I'll applaud Sark. I'll give him credit. This is him looking at the run game saying, you know what? I don't trust it. It's not working. And I said throughout the year, hey, if your run game only works when you've got like a first-round type running back carrying the ball, then you probably need to rethink some things because it's not that elite. It's just you had one really special player at running back and a couple of special players on the offensive line. That's why it works. So I'll credit Sark. He's looking at that now. I'm not taking credit for this, obviously, but that's him looking at it and saying, you know what? This doesn't work. It's not working for me. It's not working for this offense. It's not working for anybody. I'm going to tear it down and build it up from scratch this offseason.
No, that's the interesting thing. And I totally agree with you. It's a great point, Jeff. And that's why, I've said at times, in football, you got to play the man and not the hand. Like, forget about the personnel, the circumstance, all that kind of stuff. Think about the guy you're calling plays against.
Yeah.
And at times, Sark can be insecure about the running game. He can be insecure about, like, I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I trust it. And if I'm coaching against Sark next season, I use that. I use it. I was like, I don't think he trusts his run game. Because when he said, even the A&M game, remember, it was working and he didn't trust it. Because that's what trust issues do to you. Yeah. Trust issues, when you carry baggage from one relationship, to say somebody cheated on you in a relationship and you carry it to the next and you with a good person the next time, those trust issues are going to affect the way you treat your next partner.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be like, why are you treating me like that? I don't, there's no reason for you to treat me like this. But from game to game, he doesn't trust the run game. So in the A&M game, he's like, I don't know if I can trust it early on. And then that's why I gave him a ton of credit. At halftime, he's like, I got to trust my run game. I got to trust my run game. If run game's working, it's the only thing that's working. I got to trust it. And he trusted it, and boom, it worked out for him. Right? And worked out from the Oklahoma game. But in the Georgia game, I actually agreed with him. It was not going to work versus Kirby Smart. You got to play the man, not the hand. Kirby Smart ain't letting your outside zone work. He ain't letting your run game work. He shut down your scramble drill. That's how dedicated he was to stopping your run game. I'm shutting down your scramble drill too. That was the only game really where Arch had no scrambles and no scramble drill at all. Like, they had a damn opportunity. They shut it down. And he said it before the game they were going to shut it down. So I think for Sark, it's about trust issues for him, which are not necessarily fair, but I see why he carries them over from one game to the next, because it's mostly about the O-line. It's about the running back. There are a lot of different factors that he throws in there, but good point, Jeff.
And the last point I'll make is the other game where it really worked was Ohio State, because the way Matt Patricia called that game, he's like, hey, I'll let Sark run the football. And what happened in the second half? We saw Baxter and Wisner both popping off runs, but the difference was, again, I go back to it, those two non-conference games against San Jose State and UTEP, we were all feeling puffed up about the run game. Hell, Sark's been that confident in his run game since Bijan was on campus. Like, he was really excited about it. And then you had those two non-conference games. That was letting the air out of the balloon. It's like, oh, that was us having Ohio State giving us the run, us sticking to it and having some success.
Yeah.
But we can't really run the ball. And at that point, whatever trust Sark had in the run game from that Ohio State game, it took two non-conference games to pop that balloon and be like, nope, can't trust it. Got to do something else.
So wild. You had 160, but turns out you're right. It was a Fugazi, a Wazi, a Woozy. That was Patricia saying, no, I ain't going to let Arch beat me. Arch ain't beating me.
Yeah.
That run game, you can have it. Arch ain't beating me. And he was right. Why? Because Texas short yardage in red zone, where your run game really needs to amp it up. He's like, they can't, they're not good there. So I'll just wait till they get down there and then I'll stop them. And he did. See, we didn't even mean for football theory to get that deep today, but he did. All right, let's thank our friends over at SeatGeek before we end things. Texas fans, and Texas football fans, listen, if you're trying to get to any event, we're talking about, obviously rest of the NFL season underway. You got bowl season happening as well. You also got concerts and festivals. Our friends over at SeatGeek can hook you up, folks. They're the #1 rated ticketing app. Over 35 million downloads today, and they can help you out no matter what your situation, no matter what kind of entertainment you're looking for. They do make it easy for you. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know if you're getting a good deal. They make it really easy. Green dots means good. You're getting great value there. Red means bad value. You don't want to touch it. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And right now, you get a great deal. OTF fans, if you use the code OTF10, all right, OTF10 is the code you're looking for. Use that code and you'll get 10% off your next set of tickets with our friends over at SeatGeek. That's right. So use that code OTF10 and you'll get 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. We love our friends over at SeatGeek. They do a great job. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account. Also, we know the World Cup is coming up, and our friends at SeatGeek got great tickets and great deals for World Cup tickets as well. So if you're looking for World Cup tickets, give our friends over at SeatGeek a try. We appreciate them and all of their support of On Texas Football. Thank you, Jeff, for all the great work you do. We appreciate you as well. And thank you guys out there for watching and for listening. For Jeff and for Matthew, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time. Hook 'em Horns.